Hockey Haylod has a question. It says, we have a third on the way due in October. Congrats. That's exciting. Would you recommend dropping the 25% savings rate to get cash for a minivan in October, or save the rate and take out a smallish loan? Yay, messy middle.
Lay out the variables one more time.
So they got a third coming in October.
So they're probably going to need a minivan.
They need a larger car. Not uncommon when you go from man to man to zone coverage. That's what happens. Their question is, in order to pay for the minivan, should we drop our savings rate from 25% down, right? Okay. Or should we leave our savings rate at 25% and go out and borrow a small sum of money to be able to buy for the minivan? So it sounds like, should we save between now and then, cash flow to be able to pay cash, or should we keep saving, keep putting the money in the market, keep investing, and when it's time for us to buy the minivan, we're going to take out a small loan, following 23.8, of course, to buy it? What's the most advantageous strategy?
Yeah. I mean, look, this is one of those things, and this is why I love the financial order of operations, is that life happens. I mean, we talk about this because hockey's in the messy middle. I mean, when you got 3 kids, I've watched Bo, you're in the same life that Bo's in right now, and you're making these decisions, but the minivan's got to happen now, because, I mean, you need it. I don't know that I want you going to no saving and investment during that period.
It sounds like he said drop it down. I don't know that we're going to zero, but it sounds like drop it down a little bit.
I do, but I just want to remind people what the whole purpose of 23.8 is. 23.8 is the car buying rule that we have, is because there are moments in my life, I'd be a hypocrite if I told you I paid cash for all of my cars in that first 10 to 15 years once I was on my wealth building journey, because I didn't. I had to go finance. Like my first car out of college, I had to go finance a used Mazda 626 with the oscillating vents in it and everything, and it was like $10,300. I put down like $2,000, and then I had to finance the rest because that's what I could do at that moment in time. I think hockey, I'm okay with you. A minivan definitely qualifies for 23.8. That's not a luxury vehicle. Now, here's the word of caution. There's a big difference between, like, because I think about some of my relatives and friends I've seen going and buying like a used Caravan or some of these other cars, because you can get minivans are so considered so uncool by the market that they haven't gone up. Like an SUV are now in the hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially. SUVs, but or even trucks have gone that way. But minivans, they humbly have not had these huge run-ups in prices. But I'd still encourage you, if you're having trouble and can't pay cash for this thing, and without even taking away from your saving investments, nothing wrong with buying a used one, putting 20% down, financing no longer than 3 years, and making sure those payments don't exceed 8% of your gross income. And of course, your investments have to exceed your monthly car payment. Those things, they're set up there to keep you in a good place. Just don't go load up. This is not the time to go flex, if you can consider flexing with a minivan. And buy something that is.
I was about to say, there's some
pretty fancy ones. And look, you had this whole thing where y'all got a minivan. I mean, so I'll let you.
Hanson family's a minivan family.
Let's do some experience share here on what you and your spouse did.
Look, it's necessary. I love it. My wife, she's a big fan of the show. She's probably listening right now. She doesn't love it as much, right? She liked the big SUV better. But it's amazing. I think when you think about this, messy middle decisions, in my opinion, there's a lot of like opportunity cost constructs you have to work through. I mean, one real easy one, right? If you just want to think about like purely mathematics. Okay, if I'm going to take a small loan, what are interest rates on that loan going to be? If I go out and buy an auto loan, am I going to be paying like 7, 8, 9% to borrow money on this, or am I going to be paying like 4, 5, 6%? Because that would come into my thought process on whether I'm going to decrease savings and build up cash and pay cash, or go with a little bit of loan. Here's the other thing that I think you ought to think about. As I'm following the financial order of operations, probably hold the thing up for me. As I'm following, and by the way, if you want your copy, go to moneyguy.com/resources. As I'm following through it, I want to think about the opportunity cost of the dollars that I'm sacrificing. Meaning, if I have to drop down my 25%, but what that means is, okay, I'm saving a little bit less in my taxable account. Or maybe I'm not putting quite as much in my 401k for a small season. That's different than if I have to drop down my 25% and now I'm starting to sacrifice Roth and HSA dollars.
Yeah.
Because those are dollars that are going to be hard to make up time on. After-tax account, you can make up the time on that. Even in your 401k with savings limits at $23,000 annually, you can make up the time on that. But if you start saying, hey, I'm not going to do the Roth, ooh, that one starts to get me a little bit more nervous. So I think you have to do the math on those two things and marry that. And realistically, what it'll probably be is some combination of both. How can I make sure that I'm putting my dollars to work, I'm following the food, I'm making it work for me, but I'm also not getting into bad debt that I don't absolutely have to get into. Here's what I love that you're doing. Third is due in October. Do you know what month it is right now?
Yeah.
It's April.
Yeah.
You are thinking about this way ahead of time. That's what a financial mutant does. We know when we have large financial decisions coming, we get out in front of them and start the planning now. And when it comes time to buy the car and do the thing, it's not going to catch you off guard. It's much better than you saying, hey, you know what? We drive a Honda Accord. Surely a family of 5 is going to fit in there easily. Not going to be the same as a minivan, but you're figuring that out now, which hockey, I think, is awesome and a great thing.
I do want to clarify one quick thing, though, because without a doubt, step number 3, we have the credit card on high interest debt. That's a no-brainer because credit cards are now 20+%. I have heard in the last month, 2 people have told me about auto loans that are, I've heard 15% on one, I've heard 11% on another. So when I hear numbers like that, without a doubt, if you're looking at the financial order of operations, auto loans can, in this day and time where interest rates are, can definitely fall into high interest debt. If you need some guidelines, we've done a lot of stuff. It's more like the way you look at student loans. If you're in your 20s, I consider anything above and beyond, like in the 6-ish range in your 20s, as high. So when Bo said if you get a 7% car loan, that does probably, you need to go back to the financial order of operations and consider that 7% as a high interest. So look and figure out what you're going to do with your next dollar. If you're in your 30s, the number goes down a little bit. Maybe now it's in the 5-ish range on what's high interest. 40s, 4%. You can see, because it's based upon what you think those dollars actually had the opportunity of becoming. And that's what will protect you. Because when Bo's talking about the Roth and so forth, you can imagine somebody who's in their 20s, Roth IRA money with the wealth multiplier and that compounding growth is just so powerful. It's okay to probably look at the arbitrage there, but for some, if the interest rates on these things are greater than 10%, it's like, ooh, yeah, save up cash and pay that off, because it's just not worth dealing with that if your interest rates are that high.
I'm just going to throw one more free piece out there. This has nothing to do with personal finance, just experience here. You know, we had the big SUV. We did that for a while. But man, every time my kids got in it and there were like French fries and chicken nuggets, and it drove me crazy. When I see that kind of stuff in the minivan, and I'm sure your kids are perfect, don't drop stuff. Totally cool. When I see the minivan kind of drive, I'm like, that's what it's built for. That's what it was made for, right? Like, me personally, as a consumer, I have less anxiety seeing a dirty minivan here versus like the super nice SUV. And by the way, we have tons of friends. We have a bunch of friends who all have the big SUVs. That's a lot of money for little kids.
I can tell you, as a person who doesn't have little kids anymore, but I try to park next to minivans because I know that nobody's opening the car doors. The kids aren't, because that's who dings your cars. It's
true.
Bless their heart. It's the kids that pile out of the car and beat the heck out of the car next to them. Minivans, you don't have to worry about that because those doors, just do that nice slide back. And then, I mean, that's pretty
Ryan's
sweet.
a real fan.
You did not know that you were getting parking hacks here on the Money Guy Show.
Yeah, park next to minivans.
I love it.
Unless the parents are jerks, you're probably not getting dinged.